everything, all material opulence, now make it plus Krishna. Then it will be very nice. Lakshmi, Narayana. These boys are trying very sincerely and seriously. And I hope, even I do not live many more years, they will carry out this order. A lot of indistinct sentences. Prabhupada, other times being washed away, Keno, Mayar, Bosh, Jachubesh, and we are being washed away by Bhaktanath Thakur. Yes, that's all. Everything is there. So chant Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavatinaistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 7 and Text 30. Yajnasya cha vitanani Yajnasya cha vitanani Yogasya cha pataha prabho Yogasya cha patah prabho Naishkarmyasya cha sankyasya Naishkarmyasya cha sankyasya Tantram va bhagavat smrutam Tantram va bhagavat smrutam Yajnasya cha vitanani Yogasya cha patah prabho Naishkarmyasya sankasya Tantram va bhagavat smrutam. Yajnasya of sacrifices, cha also, vitanani expansions, yogasya of the mystic powers, cha also, pataha ways, prabho, O my Lord, naishkarmyasya of knowledge, cha and sankyasya of analytical studies, tantram, the path of devotional service, va, as well as Bhagavad, in relation with the personality of Godhead, smrutam, regulative principles. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation: Please also describe the expansions of different sacrifices and the paths of mystic powers analytical study of knowledge, and devotional service, all with their respective regulations. Please repeat. Please also describe the expansions of different sacrifices and the paths of mystic powers, analytical study of knowledge and devotional service, all with their respective regulations. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word tantram is significant herein. Sometimes tantram is misunderstood to be the black spiritual science of materialistic persons engaged in sense gratification. But here tantram means the science of devotional service, compiled by Srila Narada Muni. One can take advantage of such regulative explanations of the path of devotional service and make progressive advancement in the devotional service of the Lord. Sankhya philosophy is the basic principle of acquiring knowledge, as will be explained by the sage Maitreya. The Sankhya philosophy enunciated by Kapiladeva, the son of Devahuti, is the real source of knowledge about the Supreme Truth. Knowledge not based on the Sankhya philosophy is mental speculation and can yield no tangible profit. The Sanstha Bhaktivedanta Purport. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaha Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Vidura's further inquiries to sage Maitreya. Here Maitreya is addressed as Prabhu, O my Lord. So he is asking about yajnasya, sacrifices, vitanani, the expansions of different sacrifices. Then yogasya, yajna is one path. Now here yogasya cha, yoga is one more path. So he is asking about yoga, that means the paths of mystic powers. Naishkarmyasya, Prabhupada translates that as knowledge. Knowledge has to lead to naishkarmya, detachment from or working without expectation of the fruits. Naishkarmyasya cha sankyasya. Then one more path is the Sankhya philosophy. Prabhupada mentions in the purport about the Kapiladeva's Sankhya philosophy. Tantram means here, Prabhupada mentions in the purport also, it is the path of devotional service. Va Bhagavasmrutam and various regulations, regulative principles of serving the Supreme Lord. Actually, these words we repeatedly hear. We hear about yajna, we hear about yoga, then jnana or naishkarmya, and then sankhya, then there is devotional service. These words repeatedly appear in Vedic literature, and all these are various bona fide paths to attain the Supreme Lord, to attain the Supreme Truth. And specifically Prabhupada mentions about the tantram, that means is translated as devotional service. Tantram means path of devotional service. Sometimes people think Tantra refers to the black art practiced by some ignorant people. Prabhupada calls it as black spiritual science of materialistic persons. This is called tantra. It is to do with the dealing with the spirits, ghosts. Sometimes they want to invoke a ghost in order to kill their enemy. Long ago, when Krishna was present, there was one yajna was performed, and a big ghost was invited by Kashi Raja to kill Krishna. He sent the ghost against Krishna. So obviously the ghost could not fulfill its mission of killing Krishna, and then it is said in the tantrams, these black tantrams, if the ghost returns, it kills the person who originated. So it goes back and devastates the entire Kashi and also kills the king of the Kashi. So these are that's why Prabhupada is saying they are simply engaged in sense gratification. People who are absorbed in sense gratification will think in terms of enemy and friend. But devotees don't have those dualities in their minds. They don't think in terms of these dualities, good, bad, enemy, friend and all that. So that's why here Prabhupada is mentioning this black art is basically used by persons engaged in sense gratification. So, but then there are Sattvata tantras. That means the tantras which talk about devotional service to the Lord. The famous tantra is written by Narada Muni. Here it is mentioned in the purport, compiled by Srila Narada Muni in the form of Pancharatra. Pancha means 5 ratra, 5 days or 5 nights. Narayana, Lord Narayana directly speaks to Narada Muni, explaining about how to do devotional service to him. It also covers about how to prepare, how to worship the deities. That means the Supreme Lord is telling about how to worship Him. So this is Pancharatra. In our movement we follow this Pancharatra Vidhi, or the Pancharatra Tantra. So in one place Prabhupada explains, Tantra means expansion. Here also that word is there. Please describe the expansions of different sacrifices, expansions of devotional service. So Tantra means expanding the knowledge which is there in Vedic literatures. Expanding Vedic knowledge. Actually we all know Vyasadeva has compiled this Vedic knowledge and he expanded it into Upanishads, into Puranas. For the benefit of the people, all people, he expanded into various Puranas, which are again divided into 3 Puranas meant for people in ignorance, Puranas meant for people in passion, and the Puranas for the people in goodness. So the Puranas which deal with these ignorant people, sometimes they will have descriptions about this black art, how to invoke these black forces. So then after compiling all this, after expanding all these things, Vyasadeva decided to contract also, to simplify, to minimize in terms of the codes, Vedic codes. So that's how he has compiled what is known as the Vedanta. It just contains 4 chapters. Each chapter has 4 divisions called Pada. So that's why Vedanta is called Shodasha Pada. 16 divisions are there. And these 4 chapters contain simplified codes, like formulas. Like when we studied in our college days, we used to have these books, physics, chemistry and all that. Then when we moved into engineering, the books are expanded. There is one electrical subject, a famous writer, and his book will be this much. Very difficult to read. So in the end, they started adding 1 sheet of formulas, 1 sheet of summary. So that was very useful, because just before examinations, we all want to refresh our memories, and this card is the shelter. We used to refresh like that and go. So like that, Vedanta Sutra is like that. Simply some 4 chapters he has written. Vyasa Muni, very powerful quotes. Janmadiyasya yathonvayad. Janmadiyasya, that's 1 quote. Like that particular code is elaborated in Srimad Bhagavatam. Whole Bhagavatam is talking about what is that original source. Janmadiyasya means the original source of everything. To describe that original source, the entire Bhagavatam is been given. So that means after the Vedanta was given, again there are further sages, acharyas. They have expanded those codes. Those expansions are called tantram. So those tantrams are Sattvata Tantra. They are all devotional tantras. They are meant for devotional service, enhancing our devotional service to Krishna. In 18th century, 19th century, when the Britishers were ruling our country, they understood that if these tantras and mantras are allowed to continue in India, then it becomes very difficult to control Indians and then rule them for a long time. So they decided to expand this Vedic knowledge in a way to minimize them, in a way to distort them to suit their own political purposes. So you will see some less than Shudras writing books on Vedic knowledge, like Max Muller and all that. So they also expanded, but they are not called tantrams. Because that expansion is an ignorant expansion. It is not in line with the Vedic science. So sometimes people touch this Vedic knowledge and wanting to give their own explanations. They have a desire to expand this knowledge. But what happens is, because they are not trained up in this Vedic path, all their expansions of those knowledge is simply ignorant. It simply disturbs the society. Smruti, Shruti, Puranadi, Pancharatrika, Vidhim Vina. If these expansions are not in line with the vidhis of the Shruti and Smruti, then simply they are disturbance in the society. Utpata, the word that is used is, they simply create utpata. Very dangerous situation they create in the society. Unfortunately, that situation is there. So many people, they have no qualifications to expand the knowledge. Radha Govinda ki jai. They have no qualification to touch these Vedic literatures, but then they are bold enough to expand that knowledge. So they simply create utpata. So people who are not trained in Vedic knowledge, they are called Shudras. But they are not barred from learning this Vedic knowledge. Anybody can learn Vedic knowledge. And if they learn this Vedic knowledge nicely, they develop those qualities, then they are called Brahmanas. That's all, very simple. Anybody can become Brahmana, provided he takes the training. He goes through that cultural reformation. He goes through those samskaras. He becomes a Dvija. And then he learns this Vedic science, Vedic literature, under the guidance of a spiritual master. He can also become Brahmana. And if somebody becomes a Brahmana, now can he write these tantrams? Narada Pancharatra says, Mantra Tantra, Shat Karma Nipuno Vipra, Mantra Tantra Visharada. So somebody may become very expert in these mantras and tantras. How to expand also he knows. But, and he is very expert in Shat Karma. Brahmanas karmas are 6 Shat Karmas. What are they? Yajan Yajan. They should know how to worship the deity, and they also make others, they teach others how to worship deity. Yajan Yajan, these are 2. And then Patan Patan. They learn the Vedic literature and then they teach Vedic literature. They are teachers actually. Brahmanas are teachers. And then Dana Pratikna. He can accept charity. Only a Brahmana can accept charity. And then he can give charity. He also has to give charity. These are the Shat Karma. So Shat Karma Nipuno Vipra. He is very expert in these Shat Karmas. Mantra Tantra Visharadaha. And he knows all the mantras very nicely with the meter. He will be chanting. Tantras he also expands nicely. He knows how to talk, expand, write. But if he is Avaishnavo, Gurur Nasya, if he is Avaishnava, if he is not a devotee of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, then he cannot be Guru. Guru Nasya. Vaishnava Swapacho Guruhu. Narada Pancharatra has created a revolution in this last line. It says, Avaishnava, if he is a Vaishnava, but he is from a Swapacha, from a family of dog eaters. Dog eaters are considered to be the lowest. Those lowest category of families where they eat dogs. Even now there are many countries they eat dogs. They'll have dog festival. Doesn't mean they play with the dogs. Basically they cook and eat. The dog eaters are there. So those families, if he becomes a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Supreme Lord, then he can become Guru. So simply understands how to expand this Vedic knowledge is not sufficient. That's also a material skill at some level. That is not sufficient. He should expand that knowledge in order to enhance the devotional service of the Lord. That is the real Tantra. That is the real Tantra. Otherwise, he may be very expert, but he can never be a Guru like that. Prabhupada, he expanded the knowledge, the Vedic knowledge. And what are those expansions? His books. All his books are nothing but expansions of the Vedic knowledge. And what are those books saying? Or what are those books inspiring? Devotional service to Krishna. So, Prabhupada's books are real tantrams. They are the real Sattvata Vaishnava tantrams. And he inspired millions of people to take up devotional service to Krishna. These are the real tantrams. And then he is a real Guru. He is a real Guru because he expanded this knowledge. And then, there is a complete 180-degree difference between the tantrams that are mentioned in Narada Pancharatra or books of Srila Prabhupada and those mentioned in some black arts. Some disciples of Prabhupada, once they mention about their own experience of dealing with these black spirits. So those devotees, they were worshipping the spirits. They used to worship the spirits, and then they're so good in worshipping. Sometimes the spirit also appears, or they're able to establish the contact. So they established a contact, and then they used to ask questions to the spirit. They say how to do this, how to do that, because in this world, no, direction is very important. The direction is wrong, then things go wrong. A proper direction is very important. And if the proper direction comes from a perfect person, like an acharya, then we are safe. Even a small deviation becomes a big danger. For example, you are flying in the flight, Hyderabad to Bangalore, let us say, and 1 degree deviation in the flight, you will not reach Bangalore. You will reach Gulbarga or some other, you will reach somewhere else. It appears that, your deviation is very small, maybe 1 degree, but the result is very big. So that's why devotees have to be very careful to strictly adhere to the direction that Srila Prabhupada has given. So that's why they are also asking that spirit, okay, how to do this, how to do that, how to enhance our sense gratification, all those things they are asking. Once what happened, these worshippers, they become fed up with all this, and then one day they asked that spirit, what is this life? What is this world? Why this suffering and all those things? They asked that question. And that spirit said, no, I don't know this. This is a super duper question, nobody asked me. I will call my senior. And then that spirit went and got his senior onto the communication channel. So looks like there are, even in the world of spirits, there are the seniors, all those divisions are there. Any community, whether it is human community or spirit community, ghost community, you will see these divisions. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Without this community and this division, no community can exist. In the ghosts also, there are Brahmin ghosts, Brahma Rakshashi they are called. So everywhere these divisions are there. So he goes and calls back the senior, and then he comes onto the line, and then these people repeat the question, okay, now what is this world? What is this life? It's all so routine and mechanical, boring. What should we do? Then that spirit says, you do one thing, there is one bookstore nearby your place. You go to that bookstore, you will get a book, and that book will answer your questions. So those 2 worshippers, they go to the bookstall and they will be lamenting, Arey, I have not asked what is that book name. Bookstall will have hundreds and thousands of books. So they are saying, no, our spirit has recommended, what is that book? They are asking that man. And then they gave some Zen, some book of some Buddhist book on some Zen or some, like that. So they took that book, they came to the cashier, they asked how much to pay, and they are trying to pay, and suddenly one book falls from the top into their hands. And when they look at that book, that is Prabhupada's book. And so that person thinks, Oh, maybe this is what sent by my spirit. My spirit guide is guiding me. And he looks at that book and he says, no, we want to take this book. Take that book. They took that book and then they became devotees. They met Prabhupada, chanted 16 rounds. They started chanting 16 rounds. They started rendering devotional service to Krishna. That is the real tantram. Prabhupada's expansion of the Vedic knowledge is so inspiring that it has inspired these people. So sometimes I think these spirits are very special. They know that there are some special books are available now. So even this black art also, if they properly study, they are also Puranas, they are also part of some Vedic knowledge. Even they will guide towards devotional service of Krishna, provided they approach a proper personalities, proper acharya. So here Prabhupada also mentions about the Sankhya philosophy. He says, Sankhya philosophy is the basic principle of acquiring knowledge, as will be explained by the sage Maitreya. If anybody wants to acquire knowledge, scientists or jnanis, their journey begins from understanding this world. What is this world? What is this composed of? This is how everybody begins. That's why Prabhupada is saying basic principle of acquiring knowledge. So what is falling on their eyes, they see and they want to understand. What is falling on their eyes are experienced by their senses, are there different elements. So they try to understand what are these elements and how this world is constituted. And this is actually nothing but Sankhya. Sankhya philosophy talks about the 26 elements and then how the whole universe is created by the Lord using these 26 elements. Sometimes they call Shodasha Kalam 16, sometimes 24, sometimes 26. If there is Krishna's hand is there, the mention of Krishna's name is there, God has created, then that is called Sankhya philosophy given by the Kapiladeva. Actually, we will see in the next chapters, Maitreya Rishi will be explaining about this Sankhya philosophy. And that philosophy will give us a beautiful idea about the true knowledge. What is the truth of this world? How this world is constituted? Everything will be explained there. And you will also see what is sound, what is earth, what is water, what is fire. Each and every element has been described. What you think is fire or what you think is sound is not the sound. The Vedic understanding of sound is much encompassing or complete. It's a complete description. So all those descriptions will be explained by Maitreya in the coming chapters, where we can see even that also expands the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Any questions? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
హరే కృష్ణ గోల్డెన్ టెంపుల్ వారి మరో అపురూప కానుక హరే కృష్ణవాణి ఆధ్యాత్మిక మాసపత్రిక. ఇప్పుడు మొబైల్ యాప్ ద్వారా కూడా సులభంగా పత్రికలు చదువుకునే సౌకర్యం, వార్షిక సభ్యత్వం, భగవద్గీత, భాగవత ప్రవచనాలు, స్ఫూర్తి సందేశాలు, ఇంకా మరెన్నో సదుపాయాలతో హరే కృష్ణవాణి మొబైల్ యాప్ నేడే డౌన్లోడ్ చేసుకోండి. మరిన్ని వివరాల కోసం కాల్ చేయండి 9133107700.